Hi, Patty. It's Angela.
Hi.
This was just wanted to
Do
see
you
if a
do you
yes or
know why? Do you know why they made me go all the way to LA
no.
on a Friday night?
No. Why?
So they could tell me they want to charge me $275 to make copies for the court trial.
Oh dear. This is for our tenant.
Because I
Oh,
need three copies of the case file, one for the judge, one for me, and one for them. So that's what they called me into LA for.
oh dear. Well, we'll pay those expenses, of course.
I'm not paying them a dime. I just want them to do the job I paid them for.
Oh, okay, great. So do we have her served yet? Do we know?
Not yet, but I have a meeting with their supervisor on Monday afternoon.
Bless you. Bless you
I'm
so much.
livid. All right.
We
All right,
thank
let's get started with our widgets way.
you much. That gives us
Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome. All right, so have been getting a lot of questions about yesterday's webinar with Agla, and I had technical difficulties. It was my fault. They could hear me though, and I was yelling, I have so much good information to give our clients. And for some reason or other, I just couldn't connect to the webinar yesterday. So for that, I do apologize, but we can go over some of that stuff if you guys want to today regarding creative ideas that just don't work anymore. Okay. Unless somebody has anything pertinent that they need to talk about and want to discuss, I'd be more than happy to go over yesterday's webinar with Agla that didn't quite happen yet because I couldn't get connected to the Zoom meeting and it sucked. So with that being said, that class was on creative ideas that just don't work anymore and the things that we're not able to do that we used to be doing, but we're unable to do them now. Mike, you have questions. What do you got?
Hi, Patty.
Hi.
Hi. I have question if you don't mind. Um, do we need a physical office for the mail or for my tenant to come and see us?
I'm having a technical problem. My tripod
Oh,
just collapsed and it's falling over. Do you need a physical address that your tenant can pay the rent to? Is that the question?
no, they want to know like who's the owner of the mobile home park, what's the office number, who,
This is
what's the
all
physical
information
address?
that this is all information that should be in their rental contract.
Yeah, it is. But we have a PO box at the post office.
Okay, and is that where you expect tenants to pay rent to?
No, actually, we pick up the rent from my manager on site. They drop up the mailbox at the mailbox and we pick it up. But we tell them if they have any question or complaint, just mail to us or email to us at the post office.
Just have them deliver it to the on-site manager. It makes it much easier.
Yes, but they,
Let me explain why. If you use a post office box on a 3-day notice to pay rent or quit, a post office box isn't manned. So I have to change the notice to read 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Mhm. But because this tenant have a complaint about the mobile home and they demand for the owner of the mobile home park. And they demand the business phone number, which is I told them I'm the one who to contact with because I'm a portion owner and I'm also a portion manager of the site.
I'm the one that you need to contact is what you
Yes.
need to tell the tenant. And
Hmm.
this is the information that you're given, and it's all that you need.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because what happened is, we own the mobile home park, which is might be different from the rental. Because what happened is, when the tenant move in, the previous tenant defer a lot of maintenance. So we tell the new buyer, we say, look, if you want to buy this mobile home, you have to keep up the maintenance. And
Right.
we
You
give
have
you
to
like,
do the skirting and everything else. I'm aware
right,
of mobile home.
yeah, and they say, how come you don't ask the other tenant to do? Why you ask us to do? I said, well, because you just move in and,
You
we want
just
to keep
bought
the
it.
park. Yeah, you
You
just bought
just
it.
bought it.
Yeah, and then we increased the rent and we told them we give you 3 months to maintain it and upgrade it. If you don't, then we charge you $100 per month.
There
It's
you go.
written on the contract.
Well,
And then last year, she filed the complaint to the mobile home, the XCD, the
mhm.
the housing community development.
Yes.
So we have a complaint. So I dispute with her and we settled it. We settled it, and she said, okay, she's gonna keep it up, and she gonna pay the $100. So that's everything good, everything sunshine. And then just last month, she sent me another letter complaining that I'm charging her too much, and she won 2,500 plus another $2,000 penalty, which is add up to $5,000.
No, unfortunately, that doesn't work. Let her know that no, I'm not giving you, I don't understand why you think that I should pay you to live here. But you
Yeah,
can
because
send it. Why don't you send your attorney the letter that she gave you and have them respond to her?
actually she sent me we did not hire any attorney,
Right.
but
But what I'm saying is, why not hire one now and have them respond to her?
that's
Because
that's
apparently you need a little bit of help in getting that tenant under control because she's running rampant with her shenanigans.
right. So you know what I did? I listened to your episode and I'm getting smarter. So what I do in 2022, when we settled the case, I have her sign on the paper from the mobile home park and sign that she resolved everything. And I have the paper. And I called the XCD, which is the housing development, and I told them, I said, what would I do? I mean, the case is already settled.
What city is this in?
Cedar Rosemead.
So you're in LA County.
Yes, ma'am. LA
You need
County.
to be very careful what you do in LA County. Okay. So at this point, I would honestly hire an attorney to write her a response letter,
Okay.
letting
You
her
any
know that this isn't going to continue to go on this way. She's got to either do what's required of her or find somewhere else to go.
Yeah, and see, write me all the civil code 798.19, 7.825, and all this. We spent so much time. And do you have any suggestion where I could go for attorney?
I work at a law firm.
Okay. So shall I call you and
I work at Fast Eviction Service. I would
oh,
send them a copy of the letter and ask
mm-hmm.
them how much they would charge you to write a response.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So okay. So that would be settled. Thank you very much for your help.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, dear.
Does anybody have anything else that they want to pick my brain about? Why you got me? Anybody? All right. I'm going to touch briefly on the webinar from yesterday that didn't happen, unfortunately, for those of you that are paying attention. Rent increases in San Bernardino are at nope, it's not 9.6%. Yep, it's capped at 9.6%. And that covers San Bernardino, a portion of Riverside, and Ontario. It's right where the international airport comes in. It's that hub. Oh, wait a minute. What is Patty saying? Everybody pay attention. In the Inland Empire, they have changed statewide rent control, how we know it as AB 1482, also known as the Tenant Protection Act, also known as California Civil Code 1946.2. No, 1942.6. Sorry, I said it backwards. Now I'm confusing myself. Let me turn that part off. In August 1st of this year, they redacted our 5% plus the CPI for the area that surrounds Ontario International Airport, calling that a metropolis and capping our max rent increases at 9.6% going forward. It will never be 10% again if you're subject to the TPA and you're in the Inland Empire around the international airport. Wait, what is Patty talking about? I'm learning that anytime we have an international airport, it creates a metropolis around it. let's take into consideration Ontario Airport, because that's what we're talking about right now. Ontario Airport is an international airport. Around it are a butt ton of warehouses. Around that is a butt ton of apartments. Whenever you have an international airport, you have a metropolis. Wherever you have a metropolis, you're going to have more protections for tenants and less protections for landlords because we're outnumbered. So, raising rents in San Bernardino now because of the Ontario metropolis, if you will, we're at 9.6%. That's correct, to my Roadrunner folks that are asking me. It is capped at 9.6%. It will never go over that unless it's a SFR exempt from 1482. What did Patty just say in English? Because I realized I rattled that off really quickly. Is a SFR is a single family residence. Okay, just so everybody knows. Okay, let's briefly talk about creative ideas that just don't work anymore. Okay, and I'm not going to go into details on it. I'm just going to briefly touch on it, and you guys please hear me. Additional occupant fees. You know how we all put in our rental agreements, if you have additional occupants, you will pay $150 a month? You guys know what I'm talking about? If you charge that and you're capped at 8.8%, is that an illegal rent increase? What about a month-to-month fee, Patty? Also an illegal rent increase? Additional occupants, month-to-month fees, pet rent. It's all illegal rent increases. Stop doing it, okay? Stop. Posting or notice fees, big no-no, big no-no. Wait, some of us charged a posting fee or a notice fee to a tenant? Yeah, we even put it in the rental contract. Just because I put it in the rental contract doesn't make it legal. Wait a minute. You mean that some landlords put in their contract that they're going to charge $65 to a tenant in case they have to post a notice because the tenant defaulted? Wait, does that mean the tenants want to charge us a fee if they pay their rent on time? Wait, what? You understand? You cannot charge them for doing your job. It's unethical. But Patty, we paid an attorney to do it. That's on you. You should have done your job. You can't do pet fees if you're subject to AB 1482. It puts you over the percentage we just talked about, 9.6. And now here comes the whole Roadrunner team. They're like, wait a minute, what's Patty talking about? Whoa, pump your brakes. These are things that are creative ideas that just don't work anymore. They are month-to-month fees. You can't do that anymore. They are additional occupant fees. You can't do that anymore. It is pet rent. You can't do that anymore. It was fun while it lasted. Posting or notice fees. That is a big red flag. That is so unethical. You guys can't charge the tenant a fee if you have to go post a notice. It doesn't work that way. And even though you put it in your contract, doesn't make it legal. It's unethical for that to happen. Let me ask you a question. If you have a notice serve fee in your rental contract and you want to raise the tenant's rent, are you charging them a fee for doing a rent increase? No. And then the one that I'm really going to freak you guys out about is late fees. What'd you just say, Patty? You said something about late fees? It's not a thing of the past, but it is on the endangered species list. Understand? Late fees are starting to be deemed unethical business practices. Patty, why would they do that? I'll tell you why. I'll tell you. Yes, you need to have a physical address they can pay the rent to, Mike. No joke. It's so much easier that way. So much easier. Okay, going back to late fees, okay? If I don't pay my mortgage on time, my late fee is $35 for my mortgage, okay? But my rent is $3,500 and I charge 10% as a late fee. So I'm charging a tenant $350 and I'm only having to pay $35. But the argument is that this is a deterrent to encourage the tenant not to pay their rent late. You're right, it's a deterrent. Until you collect the money, then is it gouging? Are you making a secret profit? This is why your attorneys are telling you to remove late fees off of your notices, off of your documents before we get into trial. Remove them from your ledger because they are being heavily litigated right now. The chances of us losing them are high. We haven't lost them yet, but it's on the road to destruction, let me tell you. And you guys, I'm going to say this to you. I know it's frustrating. I work in a law firm, okay, with attorneys, and I want to rip out my own freaking hair at the way the rules are changing and the laws are switching and our notices are changing. Example, 3-day pay rent or quit. Let's just look at that notice just for a minute, okay? In the past 6 months, there's been so many changes to the 3-day pay rent or quit, it's not funny. In the city of LA, we now have to state how many bedrooms are in the unit and it has to be on the notice. So you're going to see that there's now a place to list how many bedrooms are in the unit on the notice. That's a new change, okay? Another new change is we can no longer count weekends and holidays in the expiration of the notice. So it doesn't say within 3 days you must. Now it says within 3 days, non-holidays, non-weekend, non-judicial holidays, you must. So there's new verbiage on the notice. If that isn't there, the notice is invalid. So we have all these things that make the notice invalid. In LA, we now have threshold rent. So I have some of it memorized, not all of it. If there is threshold rent, then you can't serve a 3-day notice until for a 2-bedroom unit, it is $2,222. You can't serve them a 3-day in LA City until they're over that amount. It's called threshold, okay? So that's why they have to list how many bedrooms are on a notice now. So when you guys serve your 3-day and send it over to your legal counsel for a review, please don't argue with them when they're telling you how the rules changed again. It's happening so much. There's so many changes that have happened in the last 6 months alone. Please don't rip their head off when they're explaining to you, the wind blew, the rules changed, and your notice is invalid, and this is why. Listen to them, okay? Because what they're trying to do is explain to you how to avoid a problem later down the road. So listen to them, please. Don't argue with them, okay? It is just as frustrating for us, because I work at a law firm, remember, to have to stop and explain to you guys, I'm sorry, your notice is bad because the rules changed again. We want to rip out our hair too. Please don't argue with your legal team when they're telling you there's a problem with your notice. They're trying to save you from wasting time and money. Got it? Don't do it your way. Your way doesn't work. Do it their way. They're the professional. You hired them for a reason. Do it their way because their way is being successful in court. Your way and the old way to do things may not be. Okay? I am confused about the dates for temporary set rents for rent-controlled units from February 1st to June 30th of 2024. Arlene, you and me both.
Yeah, I don't understand, Patty, because last night, LA City Council, we were supposed to get the 7% in February, which you
Do
said
you want to know what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Okay, let me just talk to you guys out loud and everybody listen to me, okay? What we're talking about is City of Los Angeles. Please take a deep breath and help me to teach you something everybody understands, okay? City of Los Angeles also has LARSO, okay? So you could be governed by LARSO. If you're exempt from them, you're still governed by the City of Los Angeles, okay? So even if you're exempt from LARSO and you're in LA City, you're still governed by the city's bureaucracy and BS, okay? Because it goes city, county, state, federal. Got it? Okay. So if you're exempt from LARSO, you're still governed by the city. The City of Los Angeles says that we cannot do rent increases within the city. Doesn't have anything to do with RSO. Just hear me out, okay? They still put a rent freeze in place. That rent freeze for us to do increases is supposed to lift on January 31st. The likelihood of them extending that until the August date that they're throwing around is very high, and I'll explain to you why. Perception, okay? I have one argument, a tenant's going to have a different argument than I do, but hear me out, okay? Under current law, when the rent increase is supposed to lift January 31st of next year in the City of Los Angeles, they would be limited to 7% increase as a maximum, okay? 7%, because that's the CPI in the City of Los Angeles, and that's how they calculate the rent increase. What the city is saying and why they're all panicking right now is they think 7% is too damn high. Now, don't let Arlene unmute herself because she's blowing up like a bomb right now, okay? I know she is. She's going, oh, and she's turning red and she's shaking. The reason why is she hasn't been able to raise her rent since 2020. This is 2023. And what they're talking about is extending it until August of 2024. And the reason being is 7% is too high. We haven't had an increase in 4 years. Why is 7% too high? The Consumer Price Index, which bases their calculations on the rate of inflation, says that that's warranted. The city says, oh, no, we're going to do an extension. We're not going to free this up on January 31st, and we're going to calculate a new way to figure out the maximum rent increase because we think just the CPI is too high when inflation is up. That is what's happening, Arlene. So you go ahead and you ask me your question, because what they're throwing around right now is just to see if it sticks to the frickin' wall. They have not come up with a plan of action on how to do the allowable rent increases that make sense from their perspective, because now they want to eliminate the CPI. I think, and this is just me talking out loud, I have no knowledge on this subject matter. I think that they're going to try to tell us something along the lines of, you can do 3% if they've lived there for less than 3 years. If they've lived there for longer than 3 years, you can do 2%. And if they've lived there for 10 years or longer, you can do 1%. That's what I'm thinking they're going to try to come up with to combat that 7% is too high, even though we haven't been able to raise our rents now in 4 years by the time this comes to head. 4 years, and 7% is too high. If they allowed us to do just 2% each year, we'd be at 8%, not 7%.
So Patty, this is for not LARSO stuff,
LA,
right?
correct.
But will the February for Larso, the 7%, that's still in jeopardy too, correct?
All of it is. The rent increase within the city of Los Angeles is in jeopardy.
Because what they're saying,
Larso or not.
The article that I'm looking is that Blumenfield is saying that rather than extend the rent freeze, he's requesting that the city attorney, with the assistance of the housing department, draft an ordinance that would temporarily set rent increases for rent-controlled units from February 1st to June 30th, 2024. The hikes would be calculated using a formula outlined in the city's rent control law using the CPI from October of 2022 to September of 23, instead of from October of 21 to September of 22.
But it's still high.
Yeah, I know.
That's what they don't want. So
Right.
That's why I'm telling you, they're going to revamp it away from the CPI because they can't control the CPI.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's just my opinion on what I see happening in LA. They're going to extend that rent freeze. You watch, mark my words. They'll probably tell us on January 31st that it's being extended. And my guess is they're going to extend it to August because they are trying to come up with the new law, the new calculations of how rent increases will be adapted in the city of Los Angeles. That is my opinion, not factual, but just from the little bits that I see coming about, I can already tell you, based on my experience with the COVID pandemic, what's most likely going to happen. They're just going to continue the freeze, put an extension, and then come up with a new improved plan. But they'll write it into law, which takes about 6 months. Oh, that's why, Patty. Makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It sucks, but it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Not only did they freeze the rent for 4 years, the city allowed many to live rent-free for years. This is outright theft. That's not the only problem going on there. Let's talk about it a little bit further, okay? Not only did they do that, they allowed them to bring in unauthorized occupants and stay there for an additional year. Those protections are still in place until January 31st in the city of Los Angeles. They can have unauthorized occupants and unauthorized pets because of the COVID scandemic. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that? I meant to say pandemic. I hope that makes sense. Yes, Geraldo, the new CPI takes effect. I thought it took effect in April. I think the CPI takes effect in April. August, it was changed because that's when they realized that 5% plus the CPI was too high in metropolises and came in after the Inland Empire to lower them by 0.4%. Really? The CPI does change in April, but it gets applied in August. Thank you. I didn't know that. I learned something from you guys every day. Thank you. Can I give more detail and purpose regard to the physical address? On a 3-day pay, rent, or quit, all you're doing is telling them what physical address they can go give a check to and who they hand it to. So I'd look at your 3-day notice to pay, rent, or quit. And if you can answer or fill in that bottom part with the days they can pay rent, the hours they can pay rent, the address they can pay rent to, and the person's name that they can hand the check to, that is what's required under California Civil Procedure 1162. So if you can give a physical address of where they go pay the rent, who they hand the check to, what times they can go, and what days of the week, and that's all on there, that's a good, positive way to move forward on your notice.
Hey, Patty, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
Sorry, I got in here late. I was actually in eviction court in Pasadena, and we won.
I thought you were saying a bitch court in Pasadena.
Well, I'll leave that alone. So I got a question about, it's a car form, lease temporary relocation. Basically, they talk about termite, but it could be almost anything. But it has this phrase, and I sort of wonder what the non-legal ease is about it.
I'm going to make it simple. Is the tenant on a month-to-month or a term?
City of LA, been there for years, month to month, but it doesn't matter.
Okay, keep talking to me.
Tenant shall only be entitled to a credit of rent equal to the per diem rent for the period of time tenant is required to vacate the premises. What the hell does that mean?
Your per diem rent is your monthly rent divided by 30.
I thought that the city of LA, the county of Los Angeles has a per diem of $210 a day plus $73 for food per person over 10 years old.
Yes. However, we're not talking about the city's ordinance here. You were talking about the law and your rental agreement. So your rental agreement says that daily per diem is 1/30th of the rent. Agreed? And I'm going to go into a little more detail so everybody else can understand what you and I are talking about, okay? Because we might be speaking in real estate terms and everybody else is all, what the hell are they talking about? Okay. If your rent is $1,000 a month, your daily or your per diem is $33.33 per day. Why do I pick $1,000 a month? Because I know those numbers by heart, okay?
No, I understand that, but...
So that's for your rental contract. That's the law under the state of California, okay? But because you're governed by DCBA, you have to do the $208 per day per diem, not whatever your rent is.
Correct.
Because the city says you have to. They also say you have to pay $66 for each adult and $33 for each child 12 and under for incidentals. This could be food, laundry, etc. Okay, that number changes every year when the CPI changes, just so you know.
Yeah.
So your rental contract says that you have to give 1/30th per day, right? So $33.33 a day. But the city that governs Yale says you have to pay $210. So you pay the $210, not what your lease says.
Correct. But it says entitled to a credit of rent. So my question is this. Do we still have them pay their full quote unquote $1,000? And then we credit them for the next month, or we write them a check ahead of time because they don't have the money up front. I mean, that's all fine. But
let's talk about this in a different perspective, okay? If you need them to get out so you can do the work, you want to encourage them not to pay you the rent, but to get into that hotel and get out of your hair. If the city says you have to pay $212, and I don't remember the number per se, but I'm pretty damn close. It's like $212 per day, no matter how much your rent is. So if your rent is $400 a month, that's what you got to pay them for each day they are out of the property under the city's bureaucracy and BS, not your daily per diem. So with that being said, because it's under DCBA and they're going to go running down there, who is connected to Larceau, DCBA and Larceau are best friends now. We don't want them to do that. So I would immediately tell them no rent is to be paid. We can credit you your per diem moving forward until you can move back in till the house is habitable, because they don't owe rent until it's habitable, and then find out what they're going to do. Where are they going to relocate? Because you have to credit them that $212 a day plus $66 for each adult and $33 for each child 12 and under. Even if they're breastfed, you got to give them $33 for each child 12 and under. I'm just saying, because some people are like, no, I don't, because they're on formula or they're best. Yes, you do. Yes,
my question is, there a double dipping here? Do you not charge them the rent plus you pay for them to go? That's
You
my
don't-
question.
You can't charge the rent because you're not providing a habitable dwelling.
Oh,
And by
shit.
giving them the $210, you're providing a reasonable accommodation. So you're in compliance with the rules.
So it is a double dipping. That is the way it is. It's not one or
You
the other,
don't
it's
get
both.
paid. You don't get paid rent, and you have to pay the $212 per day. That is absolutely correct.
So it is a double dipping. It's uninhabitable, so you can't charge them the rent. So you're losing your $133 a day, whatever, that they're out. And you got to cough up whatever the county or the city or whatever.
It's like $400 a day. Let's just call it what it is.
So it is a double dipping situation. I wonder if it was a single dip, but it's a double dip.
Against the landlord.
Yeah, this is pretty vague. That's why I was like, this is a good question for Patty, because I couldn't understand this legalese.
You can't charge rent if you can't provide a habitable dwelling. So
Good.
that eliminates them paying you. Now, to provide them with a reasonable accommodation, you must pay them blank.
Good to know.
And if your rent,
I've been waiting since Monday to ask this question. I mean, I got to get on. I just left before I got here, so.
If you're in LA and your rent is about $800 a month because you haven't done those rent increases,
yeah,
and you're governed by the DCBA, the first time you have to put somebody in a hotel, you're going to understand what that means. Because let's face it, let's talk about this real quick. Okay, let's say it's something pretty big and they got to be out for 10 days.
Yeah.
How much are you crediting them? 10 times 216, but it's not. It's like $400 a day when you do the 66 per adult and 33 per child.
Yeah.
You're at about $400 a day. So you're giving them $400 a day. And how much is your rent? $1,000
a month.
And it's going to take 10 days of this. That's $4,000. Oh,
That's to pay them up front because they don't have the money to pay for the hotel or get the bill.
So now you understand what I meant. If you got to do work to get them out, you need to help them.
Yeah.
And then here's my personal opinion for what it's worth. And everybody, please listen to this. If you are establishing a new tenancy, make insurance from the tenant mandatory.
Everybody's been saying that this past month. Every attorney, every
you know why?
I don't know why, but I've heard
you want to know
the last
why?
3 weeks and I have the last 3 years.
I'm going to tell you why right now. Okay. I'm sorry, there was a flood in your property. You can't go home tonight. I need you to go to a hotel. But now I'm going to have you call your insurance company because you were put out of your house. They're going to pay to put you in a hotel. I don't have to.
Well, one thing I've been asking for is because they'll send you the cover page. 1 page is 2 pages. I say, no, I need the 17 pager, right?
I need to be listed as additional insured or interested party on the policy. That way, if they don't pay, you get notification that their policy is being canceled and you can serve them with a 3-day cure or quit for not being in compliance with their written contract. The reason everybody keeps telling you is force the tenant to get insurance is for a situation like this. I'm going to tell them to call their insurance company. They're going to call not the Best Western because it's their insurance company. They're going to call the Hyatt Regency of Beverly Hills. And that's where they're going to tell them they're most comfortable staying. And their insurance company is going to pay the bill. And you know what I'm going to do as a landlord? I'm going to pay their deductible and tell them thank you.
But like I said,
in your situation, you have DCBA that's still making you pay that $213 or whatever it is per day plus the per diem. But for the rest of us that aren't governed by DCBA, we don't have that. And now the tenant's insurance just paid to put them in a hotel. I don't have to. The only thing I'm responsible for doing is cleaning up the problem and not charging the tenant rent until it's fixed.
I'd imagine, without even asking the question, to ask for the full 17 or 18 page insurance document, not the 2-page insurance document. Because
And
a lot of it has to do with pets.
if you're listed as an interested party and the tenant doesn't pay their policy premium, you're going to get the shut-off notice as well as the tenant.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just saying, like, sometimes the pets, even their insurance company has exclusions on breeds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you won't know that unless you get the full 16-page document. So if their dog bites the neighbor, it's like, oh, you got a Rottweiler pit bull mix. We're not covering you.
I have a poodle. I don't, you guys. I had a pit bull for years. I lost him a couple years ago. Now I have an English bulldog I rescued from a friend.
All right. Well, I'll dismiss myself. Thank you very much.
If you need anything else, you hump me down.
All right.
Okay, let's get back to 267. Can you help me understand it? Senate Bill 267 says that if they have Section 8, we have to accept a verifiable form of their credit report if they provide it. Is this true? Yes, it is. It goes into effect January 1st.
However, we can run our own and just not charge them. If
different set of facts. Hold on. Different set of facts. This isn't what she's talking about. She's talking about somebody that's on Section 8 or low-income housing, and we can no longer charge them a credit screening fee.
What?
Yeah, because they're low income. So there's a new law that came about. It takes effect January 1st, and they have to provide you something. But mostly it has to do with Section 8 housing, people that are very, very low income, and that's type of thing where we cannot charge them. It goes
we
in
can still
effect,
run it because they signed those documents. I use the
at your own expense.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
$15,
But,
day away, whatever. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like I'm going to say something out loud, and don't shoot the messenger. I'm just trying to speak generally, okay? Usually when you have someone that is on low income housing, subsidized housing, or Section 8 housing, they're not going to have the best credit score. The reason I'm saying this is these are programs that help people that are income compromised. There, I'll use that, okay? Forgive me for
challenged.
Forgive Patty for trying to be socially acceptable, okay? But how can somebody that's so income challenged and is literally reaching out to these programs to help them so they're not homeless, they don't have good credit and they can't afford for you to run their crappy credit. So with that said, they're changing the laws that you and I follow to allow them to stay. If they have a voucher that's going to pay their rent for them, why do you need to run their credit? Because it's not their credit we want to know about. It's their actual behavior that we want to know about. And no credit report's going to tell you about their behavior, their demeanor, how they approach things. So I think that's what the big issue is here is we're trying to look for something that doesn't exist, and they're taking away tools that we would use. But when you really stop and think about it, that tool isn't really that beneficial when you're dealing with that demographic. Make sense?
Well, the report still has eviction on there and criminal.
Correct. And they have a FICO score.
Yeah,
if they don't meet your FICO score, you don't have to rent to them.
And if I don't really have a FICO score in writing, but I want to know if they've been evicted or they've had gun charges, the husband, you know, domestic violence.
Hold on. Whatever. Let's talk about this. Yes, you do.
What? Yes, I do. What? Their credit score?
Uh-huh.
Well,
because if they have gun charges and all these other felonies that we can't say anything about, is it the credit score we're going to lean on?
Maybe if they're crashing right now, but
felons are a protected class in the state of California. We can't discriminate against their crime.
I thought violent crimes were allowed to.
Felons are a protected class in the state of California. You can't say, I don't accept anybody with a felony conviction. That's discrimination.
Yeah, wouldn't say that.
But if you define the crime and say, I don't accept people with violent crimes, then that's acceptable. So if the person has auto theft, a GTA, Grand Theft Auto, GTA, on their criminal history, that's not a violent crime. So you're going to rent to that person because they stole a car and they're a felon. But the person that beat the crap out of his wife, you're not going to rent to because that's a crime involving great bodily injury, and your criteria says you don't allow that. So it just depends on which side of the fence you're on and what you're leaning for. But that FICO score comes in really handy when you're looking for a way to deny them, and everything that you have to deny them for is protected. The credit score isn't.
Well, even with that criminal check, violent crime is not protected, correct? I mean, that's literally in writing. And they have like 7 or 8.
Only if it's in your criteria.
Well, what if I don't have a criteria as far as that? Then I can use whatever I want.
No, that's not how that works. It's they can rent to you because you have no rules. So you have to rent to them. Let me give you an example.
I'll find a way not to.
I walk into your office. I hand you my photo ID. I hand you my money to run my credit. You show me a property and I say, when can I move in? And you say, oh, Patty, you have to meet our criteria. You have to apply and meet our qualifications. If you don't have any qualifications in writing, then when can I move in?
Well, I had 4 applicants and the owner decided to go in a different direction.
That is a well-seasoned property manager, folks. And my favorite thing when denying, and I'll teach this to everybody that's out there because this is a good one. You guys follow this, okay? When an applicant goes, what do you mean my application was denied? Why? I'm sorry, it doesn't tell me why. See, on my computer screen, it either tells me approved, denied, or approved conditionally. Yours just says denied. It doesn't tell me why, but you'll get a letter in the mail in the next 10 to 14 days explaining why. It's called an adverse action letter, and it'll explain why and tell you how you can get a free copy of your credit report. You have a wonderful weekend now. Bye-bye. Click. Remember that. My screen only tells me approved, denied, or approved conditionally. Because then they're not asking you, why are you not renting to me? Is it because of my eviction? My 7th eviction or my 9th eviction? Which one is it? Why are you not renting to me? You're discriminating. Blah, 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 blah. The more information you give them by talking to them is the better way they can hang you for discriminating. So to avoid it, I'm sorry, my screen, either I plug in all your information, it runs your credit, and it spits me out a result. How does Patty come up with this stuff? They actually use this in corporate America, just so you know. On-site managers, sometimes they put in all the information and a report comes back to them, and it either says approved, denied, or approved conditionally. And that's all the on-site manager knows. So if that's the case, and they do that to help protect the company and protect the on-site manager from not discriminating, shouldn't you do that too? If it's good for corporate America, just saying, then it's good for us too. All right, let me see what other questions we have because I know they're coming. Also, Section 8, we can no longer use their credit score. See, we will need to use rent payment history starting January 1st. This is what we're talking about, okay? This is exactly what we're talking about. Income compromised equals financially irresponsible. Not always, but I like that analogy. I read that we can no longer use their FICO score as of January 1st. For low-income housing, Section 8, the income compromise. Yeah, that's right. We're not going to be able to use the FICO score anymore for them. They're changing the way that works. And I'll tell you what I do, you guys. Right after Thanksgiving, I'm going to dive into this. I'm going to come up with a process and procedure. I'm going to come up with a corporate policy. I'll come up with a plan of action. Okay. Just like if I was working in your property management company and I'm the new trainer and hey, the law changed and this is how we're going to combat this going forward. Let's do that right after Thanksgiving. That way you guys have a full 30 days to implement the new system before the law changes on January 1. Fair enough? Everybody agree? In other words, don't make me come up with a process and procedure in the next 10 minutes. It's not going to happen. And I'm having Thanksgiving this weekend, not next week. So I'm busy this weekend, no doubt. Right after Thanksgiving, let's dive in. Patty will come up. I'm making myself a note, so bear with me. Patty's going to come up with a plan of action and a process and procedure for SB 267. 267, plan of action and process and procedure. I got you guys. And procedure. I probably need to come up with this for my corporate America clients anyway. So thank you again, my team, for helping me. And everybody agrees. Okay, good. We'll do that one after Thanksgiving, okay? I'm coming up with a plan of action for you. And we'll figure out how we're going to combat the new laws as they change, okay? Because that's what we have to do going forward. We don't manage property anymore. We manage the new laws. Sorry, it was a joke I said to a friend of mine in the industry who said, dang, Patty, I feel like I'm not managing a property anymore. I'm just managing the new rules. And I'm like, that's exactly what you're doing. Does Section 8 require a 1-year lease? Not at this time. It was not a requirement. They prefer that you do a 1 year to start, but it is not a requirement. That might change with this new stuff that's going on with 267. Like I said, after Thanksgiving, I will give you guys an answer. My Section 8 tenant was required to have a 1-year lease. A lot of them do. They want that 1-year contract at hello. And let's turn off the fact that we're landlords for a second and think about this. If you were helping people find housing, wouldn't you want to lock them in for a year so that you didn't have to continually find that one person housing every freaking month? Yes, you want to lock them in for a year. So that's why Section 8 is pushing you to sign that 1-year contract, telling you that they require it. And I have no doubt they're going to try to get us to sign terms going forward. I had one where I yelled at the Section 8 supervisor and said, this landlord is not going to sign a 1-year contract. They've never done a 1-year contract and they don't want the commitment. However, they will keep the tenant in possession for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. No problem. They just don't want that 1-year commitment on their side. It's hit and miss whether you can make it work or not. It gets tricky. It gets very tricky when you're dealing with Section 8. So watch yourself. Those people are armed to the T on what's discriminatory. And they will use that against you. So be cautious.
Yeah, they got testers out there. Do you take Section 8? I get that 7, 8 times a week. Say absolutely.
Okay.
However, your voucher only goes to 1858 and I'm asking 2100. So
unfortunately, we're going to be different on the rent. So let's talk about that really quick. Right now, the Department of Fair Housing was closed all through COVID. They were out, done, not in, they weren't there, okay? They are back. They are in full force and they are attacking corporate America. They are calling property management companies. They are not calling little landlord and trying to poke them. They're making sure that corporate America is doing their job. How you can tell that you have a secret shopper on the phone is usually very easy. Within the first 3 things they ask you, one of the questions is, do you have any concessions? The general public doesn't know what a concession is. It's a real estate term. if you get asked by a prospective applicant on the phone, if you have any concessions, chances are you're talking to Fair Housing and you're being cold called. Okay, they usually end the conversation with, this call was for marketing purposes. If you hear that, you just got cold called by Fair Housing. Okay. Remember, if they ask if you have concessions, that's a red flag for you. Okay. They'll also ask if you accept emotional support animals. That's one of their other questions they ask. And they'll go on and on about the deposit and the rent and blah, blah, blah. And they'll end it with, thank you. This call was for marketing purposes. We have an application that are on Social Security. We're running their credit and their application, but the owner wants to offer them a 4-month lease. Would this be considered discriminatory? Did you offer a 1-year lease at Hello? If you didn't offer a 1-year commitment at Hello, then I'm sorry, this owner's on a 4-month contract at Hello, or a month to month at Hello, whatever it be. But as long as you're not switching, you should be fine. Hi, for new applicants, my rental criteria says I accept Section 8 on a month to month. An applicant must make 3 times their portion of the rent. Can I still use this? I can't answer that, Tony. Not yet, okay? Give me till right after Thanksgiving, and then I'll have a plan of action and a process and procedure, but I don't have it today, okay? So let me go back and look and see, but I agree with you. They must make 3 times their portion is the proper verbiage to keep you out of trouble with discrimination for not accepting Section 8 housing. So you're spot on with your verbiage. I just don't know if we can do Section 8 on a month to month. And let me look into the new law and come up with a plan, okay? They are willing to pay 4 months of rent up front to make their application look better, but we need to know if the owner is allowed to change the lease terms to just 4 months rather than the 1 year. It's what everybody agrees upon. And let me say this to you out loud, and it only shows me that it's Roadrunner Realty. So I don't know if I'm talking to Erica. I don't know who I'm talking to. So let me say this, and please understand me to understand me, okay? It's Erica. Gotcha. If they're willing to pay you 4 months in advance, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag everywhere. Why? Because once they're in there, they're in there. And if they're doing something wrong, let me give you an example. They move in, and the day they move in 12 people, and they only put 2, but there's 12 people there, okay? And now you want to serve them with a cure or quit because they're in a material breach of their contract. What's the first thing you have to do before you serve a cure or quit notice for the unauthorized occupants? Does anybody know?
Return the rent.
Return the prepaid rent. So you know that 4 months of rent you took? You got to refund 3 months of it, and then you can serve your notice. It's a bad business practice to take advanced rents. Usually somebody that's paying you advanced rents will never pay you another dime after that. Usually, didn't say always. When the real estate market crashed in 2007, I had a whole lot of homeowners very quickly trying to rent a property because they were being foreclosed on where they lived. With that being said, some of them paid a year in advance to show me because they had bad credit. They went through a foreclosure, blah, 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 blah. I'll pay you a year in advance. I have the money right here. I cashed in my 401k. You know, I'm trying to get my life back on track. That's when I'd see a lot of that. And it was because landlords were becoming, and homeowners were becoming tenants. So they were trying to pad the deal or make sure that you wanted to rent to them, if that makes sense. So that's they were scrambling. They're doing everything they can. So there was a lot of prepaid rents that came about when the real estate market crashed in 2007, 2008. I had a lot of landlords coming to me saying, hi, I got foreclosed on like half of the rest of the state of California, and now I need to be a tenant again, but I have a year's rent in advance because I know my credit sucks because I got foreclosed on. Makes sense, right? Makes sense. If somebody has really crappy credit and they want to pay you 4 months in advance and the 4-month lease is fine, there's probably an underlying problem there. Just saying.
Patty, isn't it discrimination though if you have a 1-year lease for all the other tenants and you offer this one a 4-month? Is there a problem with that?
No, because you're talking to a management company. Roadrunner Realty is a management company where they manage individual properties for individual owners, and they actually can have a different set of criteria for each property they manage based on that owner's preference.
But if that property has that,
if that owner has rented on a 1 year before, but he's also done a month to month, there's no problem.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I knew where you were headed, and I hear you. But if they've done both in the past, I'm sorry?
Even if it's a multifamily unit, correct?
If it's a multifamily unit, has anybody else in there ever been put on a month to month?
No.
That's a problem. Can't change the rules for one person unless you change them for everyone.
Yeah, that's what I meant, Patty. Yeah.
But thank you, because this is all helping us talk out what her issue is.
Right.
If it was a single family residence, it wouldn't be an issue at all because landlords, independent, hey. But on a multifamily property, I'd be very concerned that you don't have somebody else coming in on a month to month or coming in on a shorter term. And somebody asked me a question. Okay. I see it on there and I'm trying not to answer it because it's Victor. Victor, you asked me a question. You asked me a very, very standard question. You asked me, what's better, a month to month or a 1 year lease? Better for who? Patty, she always has these dumb questions. She's right, though. A 1 year lease is good for who? The tenant or the landlord?
Tenant.
Bingo. Why? Because the landlord can't change the rules or do anything for a whole year.
And they're responsible. If there's an issue, they have to pay for the whole year to take care of the tenant.
Bingo. You have to buy them out of their lease. Right? Okay. If they're on a month to month and there's a flood in the property, it's a lot easier just to say we're terminating the contract because we can't provide you with a habitable dwelling. A month to month is a better position for a landlord because if you get the tenant from hell, and they do exist, you're not stuck with them for the next 11 months. You can give them a 30-day notice. They have to leave next month. And if they've been there less than 12 months, you might not have to pay relocation fees because under the state law and AB 1482, relocation fees are required once the tenant has occupied the dwelling for more than 12 months. Wait a minute, Patty, what are you saying? When I'm signing a 1 year contract, I'm signing up to pay them relocation fees? Yeah, that's what that says. Because let's face it, if we don't like them and they're not the best tenant and they're kind of a problem, we're probably going to ask them to leave within that first 12 months. There's no relocation fees under AB 1482 if they haven't occupied the premises for longer than 12 months.
Patty, LARSO requires 12-month, correct?
Yep. Some municipalities do require 12 months.
Yeah, I think West Hollywood also.
I saw something, and I want to say it's through the DCBA where they made an amendment See, this is the thing. Let's back up. You guys remember during COVID when we were on here and I was like, okay, if you're in DCBA, you need to get registered. They're letting you register for free, but you got to do it by September. You guys all remember that happened September 2021, right? And then the following year, everybody had to pay. And then they're kind of getting everybody on the same page. There's still a lot of people that don't have their units registered. And I know this because they contact the law firm I work for and want to serve a 3-day, and we can't because their unit's not registered. Oh, so now they're having to register and pay all the back dues. And now that all these people are signed up, they're changing the rules. Somebody out there is not allowing you to do a rent or a security deposit increase from the inception of the lease. So if when they move in, you did a security deposit, you can't ask for an increase on that deposit under some municipalities. And I want to say it was the DCBA where I read that, but I could be wrong. It might just be Pomona, Pasadena. I want to say there's a problem with the cities that start with a P because it's Pomona, Pasadena. But yeah, I don't want to start that. That's bad. It's also Inglewood, Cudahy, Maywood. I could keep going. There's a long laundry list of, I think there's 12 of them now that have their own rent registry and their own restrictions worse than the city of Los Angeles. And let's talk about this real quick, okay? City of Pasadena has 10 members on their board. They adapted their own rental housing board and their own rent registry. And now the city of Pasadena runs very similar to the city of Los Angeles. Only their relocation fees are now set at $32,000. Patty, why on God's green earth would the city of Pasadena come up with more restrictions than the city of LA? Oh, wait, I know. And why is it that they want more money in the city of Pasadena than they do in the city of Los Angeles for relocation fees? I know, because their board is 10 members. 8 of those 10 members are tenants.
And it seems like they're all saying, hold my beer. I can do worse than LA City, than LA County, can do, more restrictive than LA City, than Pasadena, can be more restrictive than LA County, and then South Pasadena can be more restrictive than Pasadena, and Alhambra can be more restrictive. They're outdoing each other. They're like, well, we can take it from 12 months to 9 months. Oh, we could take it from 18,000 to 22,000.
Wait a minute. You mean your relocation fees under the state laws only comparable to 1 month's rent? Okay, our ordinance is going to require that you pay 2 months rent plus $1,000. Welcome to Long Beach.
Yeah, they're just trying to all outdo each other. It's like, hold my beer. I can top that.
That's what they're doing. It's exactly what's happening. Exactly. To the T. Oh, yeah, watch this. Inglewood came up with their own rent registry. What? But when you guys drive through that area, it's apartment community after apartment community after apartment community after apartment community. Oh, yeah. If you build it, they will come. And they did. It's a metropolis for tenants. All right, you guys, if nobody needs anything else, I'm going to get off of here because we're over our time.
Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, Patty. Thanks for everything.
Thanks for everything, Patty.
Thank you. I will be back with you guys next week. If you need anything, let me know. Also, AGLA moved their webinar to the 28th. If you want to sign up for that, please do. We're going to go over in detail month-to-month fees, pet rent, additional occupant fees, late fees, posting notice fees, and we're even going to talk about parking and storage fees, okay? Everybody's like, wait, what? Parking and storage? Those are fine. Just keep them on your commercial contracts. If you guys need anything else, give me a call, hunt me down. You know where to find me. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.